What is up YouTube, it's your boy Alex here from Team Generations, and today we are back again with another deck profile. Today we're going to be looking at an oldie but goldie, Mr. Eugene himself. So out of DBT 7 we did receive some support for Eugene over here in the form of basically a restander for the Vanguard, which kind of adds like another layer of intricacy I think to this deck and really times out a little bit different some of your plays. So overall I like the deck. I still don't think it's like absolutely like killer insane, but I think that it is definitely a lot more playable now, and you will take games off of unsuspecting players 100%. So I do like this deck, and without further ado, let's hop right in. Alright, and just really quickly I wanted to mention that if you are enjoying the content, we ask that maybe you hit that like button on the video. Definitely helps us out. Also please consider subscribing to the channel. Almost at 1500 subs. Thank you guys in advance. Thank you. Also, if you guys are interested in purchasing any of the cards you see here today, we do have a TCG player affiliate link down in the description below. Absolutely no cost to you. You could shop through that link to help support the channel. No cost to you. Thank you so much. Alright, hopping right in, just getting into the ride line itself. Nothing really crazy here, just starting off with the 0, the same old 1. The 1 basically when rode upon by the grade 2, just soul charges 1. The grade 2 when rode upon by Eugene will then allow you to draw a card, choose a card from your drop, put it into your soul, and you could also counterblast 1 to soul charge 1, and this guy gets an extra 5k. Typically do go for that. You don't have to every single time, really it's up to you, but basically the ride line gets you to 5 for Eugene's skill over here, and Eugene is the Vanguard over here. Obviously we probably all know what it means, but for anybody newer to the game I'm just going to go over the skill really quick so you can skip ahead if you don't need it. But act on Vanguard circle once per turn. We rest 2 of our rear guards, choose one of our opponent's rear guards, and then retire, and this unit gets an extra 10k until the end of turn. So the 10k buff is always nice, and the nice thing about this too is there's no like grade restriction, there's no like you know, it has to be in the front row kind of restriction either. It's just retire a unit, so pesky units can be taken away. And I do want to talk about some matchups regarding this a little bit later into the video, so just heads up for that. And its second skill, act on Vanguard circle once per turn. If your opponent's rear guard was retired this turn, we soul blast 5. Look at the same number from the top of our deck as the number of empty rear guard circles on our opponent's side of the field, and then choose any number of those cards from among them and then call them to rear guard circle. So if they have 4 open circles, you basically look at 4 from the top of your deck. You know, you can call up to 4 on your side of the field, and then you put the rest, you know, let's say we call 3, I'd put that 1 into my soul. So that about wraps it up for the ride line. Let's hop into the main deck now. Hopping into this main deck, like we just said, we are going to start off with 3 additional copies of Eugene. So Persona Ride is absolutely huge in this deck now, even more so than it was previously, just because making numbers is pretty, it's not so hard in this deck. It's not the numbers that we have problems with, it's just the number of attacks. But now we do have something that could possibly restand Eugene, which is pretty nice, something that we have been lacking for a little bit. In Persona, like honestly, an extra 10k swinging 2 times, that's an extra 10k potentially more out of hand every single time it swings. So I like that. I think that Persona riding is absolutely necessary. I don't think there's any like real intricate discussion to go into over there. I'm still running 1 of these just because sometimes when I do a huge board wipe, it does pay off, and this is really holding it for those situations. I'm still running 1 Best Harvest. You can cut this if you don't feel like this is necessary for you. I'm totally still trying it. I am liking it currently better than some of the other grade 3 rear guards, and that really wraps it up. Oh, I'm sorry, let me go over the skills. Choose one of your Vanguards until the end of turn, gets auto on Vanguard circle. When your opponent's rear guard is retired during your main phase, you may draw a card. So again, we're popping a ton of things. In the right matchup, this can honestly plus you quite a bit, so I do like it. I'm keeping it. And I just want to show you, I'm not actually running any other grade 3s. I know we got a lot of grade 3 support out of this set, but I was trying them out, and I'm running into 2 issues here. So first off, let's talk about the best deck in the format right now. Undebatable, in my opinion, it is Ava. Ava's rear guards are permanent. So the grade 3 dragon, I'll flash it on the screen over here. His ability will not be live because there's always going to be something in the front row of your opponent's board, because we just can't pop her units when she protects them with the order cards. Just an impossible matchup for us over here. Really shuts down the majority of this deck, which is very unfortunate. So right now, in terms of poising for meta, it is pretty tough to run this. It is good against a lot of other things, but against the best deck, it's just not that great. It's even more so not great than a lot of other things right now, but at the same time, it really does have advantages against a lot of other decks, like I said. So the other one is a grade 3 rear guard that just retires itself, and then it pops something on their side of the field. Now you do call things down from Eugene. I'll flash that also on the screen over here. You do call things off the top 5, or whatever it is from Eugene's skill, but honestly, we don't want to go into that skill too much. That is really the one-way ticket to kind of like a deck out. What you want to do is kind of pace the game your way. Don't be afraid to call from hand necessarily, because we have some pretty powerful units, and so long as you can make like a decent board, like you don't always have to be pushing this button. I definitely don't do it on my first grade 3 ride up. Usually not needed. If they take away my board, and like this should be used more so as an emergency button. So in that situation, that grade 3 girl would pop out. You retire it, whatever. Like it is what it is. I just, again, think we have so many other things in this deck that A, retire, B, can actually intercept and give us a little bit more shield value, because our hand size isn't absolutely crazy in this deck in general. I just think there are better choices, and like when I tried them out, I wasn't thinking them as much as some other people might. I don't think they're wrong, and I think there's a lot of different ways that you can build this. Again, this is my own personal build. I always encourage you guys to kind of take this as a template and do what you want to do from that. Next up over here, going into a new card out of DBT. I think, yeah, we're on 7. I feel like I'm so ahead with the Japan meta and stuff thinking about it. It's like, oh my god, I forgot what set we're on. But over here, this is a new card. This is Meteor Flare Dragon. So Meteor Flare Dragon's actually sweet, especially for premium. A lot of different implications. It buffs up a lot of different, not buffs up, but can be teched into some other decks too. So auto, when this unit is placed on rearguard circle until the end of turn, all your opponent's rearguards lose all of their continuous abilities and cannot game them. Then counterblast 1, choose one of your opponent's rearguards in the same column as this unit and retire it. So again, retiring, which is good for Eugene. Shutting off the autos is just like an added bonus at this point. I know there are some cards, I guess like the Time Hero cards, they kind of intercept, they go into soul. I'm sure there's other implications where I'm not just thinking about it off the top of my head, but anything that kind of takes my opponent's abilities away, especially defensively, I will take it 100%. Continuous on rearguard circle during your turn. If your opponent's Vanguard is grade 3 or greater and they have no rearguards, this guy gets an additional 10k, so even better than the 5k that we normally is like pretty much the bare minimum to run a grade 2 now in the current Overdress meta. An extra 10k is really sweet. Overall, if you're on a Persona ride, this is unboosted, you're gonna hit a 30k number, which is nice. It's better than the 15k guard, still just a 20k guard. No triggers obviously implied elsewhere, but I think the issue is that if your opponent's grade 3 or greater and they have no rear guards, normally I would say run this at 4 of, but again, the Ava meta is what we're in right now, and you're going to be running into that, and there's just so many times where this guy doesn't even have the 5k, which is tough. Like you need to hit that 15k number in a way, and there are other cards that kind of get you there, and I believe this 10k is very difficult to hit in this current meta, and you know, in my locals people play meta stuff, Ava's running around and whatnot, so I just can't max that guy out right now, but it is a very good card, and in another meta I definitely would suggest maxing that out. Next up over here, another oldie card over here. This came out, what, DBT02? Yeah. Act on rearguard circle if your Vanguard is, Strong Fortress Dragon, Gibrachio, something like that, I don't know. Act on rearguard circle if your Vanguard is Eugene, basically Soul Blast 1, rest this unit, and then choose one of your opponent's rearguards and retire it. Really, you want to use it for its second skill. Auto on rearguard circle at the beginning of your battle phase. If your opponent has 1 or less rearguard, we stand this unit, and then this guy gets an extra 5k until the end of turn. So essentially this is fodder for Eugene resting. You know, you rest this guy, battle phase starts, you pop something, they have 1 or less cards, restand it. Again, pretty tough in some matchups, but majority of the time this does work, like 90% of the time, I would say. I think this is just 100% a necessary include. 3 is the magic number for my grade 2s over here. We're going to see that. Next up over here, this is still going to be in my deck, and a lot of people I see have cut this out, but I do find that at times I do need something, and I'll kind of explain now. So Twin Bullet Duststorm Travis. So Travis was definitely a 4 of auto include previously, but again I've scaled it back here. Act on rearguard circle once per turn. If your opponent's rearguard was retired this turn, counterblast 1, soul charge 1, choose one of your opponent's rearguards and retire it, and then this guy gets an extra 10k until the end of the turn plus a soul charge. So there are times where like it's tough to actually soul charge in Eugene. Not a lot of ton of things are doing it. This and like one other card really, I believe, doing it aside from Eugene himself. So sometimes you need that just like 1 extra, I feel like, and he gets us there. On top of that, a little bit easier of a condition to kind of hit for that extra 10k. There's not a ton of things using up counterblasts in this deck, and you can kind of use them pretty sparingly for whatever situation you want. It's kind of like a selection on the counterblast. None of them are like, oh, I have to do this skill mandatory every time I pop down, but the 10k is nice from that. Again, we're trying to hit magic numbers, trying to hit really big because we're not swinging a ton, especially with our rear guards. Next up over here too, again, another 3. You can kind of play with these ratios if you like this more than the Travis. I'm still running the Travis just because of that reason I kind of gave with the soul charge, and it's still making the nice number. But this guy over here is a little bit freer, I would say. Howitzer of Duststorm Dustin. So it's skill auto when this unit is placed on rearguard circle. If your Vanguard is Eugene, you can then put a card from your hand into your soul, so giving yourself a little more soul. Draw a card, choose one of your opponent's grade 2 or greater rearguards, and retire it. And then when this guy attacks at second skill, soul blast 1, and this guy gets an extra 2k until the end of battle for each of your opponent's open rearguard circles. So a little bit easier, even if they do have, you know, 2 of the, I forgot the grade 3s that don't go away in like Ava, let's say. I mean, you still get like an extra 6k buff, getting you over that 15k number, which is nice. Pair that with like an 8k booster in the back over there, and you're still at least hitting a 24, so that's more than like, you know, just a 10k to guard, kind of what do they call it, a draw trigger or anything like that, or anything that gives itself that 10k. So I feel like you do have to still include this. You maybe can bump this up to 4, bump Travis down to 2, but right now I'm playing with the ratios at 3-3-3. Totally up to you. Moving into the grade 1s over here, another card that kind of is Eugene fodder in a way, and something I tried to cut back, but definitely felt like I needed it, so I bumped this back up. It's going to be Strong, Sharp, Dragon, Getstort, I think that's how to say it, Gelsfort? I can't really read that, but auto backward rearguard circle. Once per turn, when your opponent's rearguard is retired during your turn, stand this unit and gets an extra 2k until the end of turn, bringing it up to that 10k number. So overall, if you have the dino column, the other dino rester in front of it, let's say, just hypothetically, that's a 25k column, because that gets 5k, this gets the extra 2k, bringing it up to that 25. Overall, just 10k is hitting it, making us hit nicer numbers. I think it makes things a little bit more edgier overall and harder to guard. And again, just for free restander, it basically makes Eugene's skill live, and we always want to make Eugene as powerful as possible. I'll show you why in just a second. But again, another card that is new, this is Stealth Piece Silent Crow, and I don't think this is one of the craziest triple rares. Definitely not as expensive as some of the others in the set, but auto when this guy is placed on rear by a card's ability, this guy gets an additional 5k until the end of turn, which is nice. You call this off the top, becomes a 13k body. Again, just kind of making a case for not really running those grade 3 support cards, in my opinion. Maybe in a different meta, yeah, but this guy is a 13k body, which is nice, good booster. Auto on rearguard circle, when this unit, on your opponent's rearguard in the same column of this unit is retired by your card's ability, we can then counterblast one and draw a card. And again, drawing a card helps us extend plays. Maybe we can clear things off their board to fill other conditions that we need to eventually. So drawing is powerful in a game like Vanguard. You do want to do it. Counterblasts are, like I said, kind of subjective in this deck. Don't always have to use it for absolute mandatory things, but this next card over here, I would say this counterblast has to be mandatory. 3 of the new cards. So this is really what makes the deck kind of tick and work at this point, and I slotted in one of the regular ones just to make it a little easier on myself to read that. So let's go ahead here. This is Assault Bullet of Duststorm Oswald. So Oswald I've been having a ton of fun with lately. Really is the reason to play this deck at this point. I know some people are not super hot on it. They think it's more of like an accessory or an option or maybe like a threat, but really your win condition comes through this guy at this point. Like, you have to kind of plow through with Eugene, whittle their hand, whittle their field, and this guy really is the key piece to do that. So I don't think without this card, like, Eugene just takes a whole half tier step back, or whatever you want to call it. This is the only reason this is really like semi-viable to play. But auto on rearguard circle, at the end of battle, this unit boosted of Vanguard with Eugene in its card name. Your opponent's Vanguard is grade 3 or greater. They have no rearguards. Counterblast one, discard a card from your hand, shuffle your choose one of your Vanguards, stand it, and increase or decrease its crit and drive until the end of turn. So unfortunately, if you hit that crit trigger, it is what it is. You can't put the crit on Vanguard and have it still retain it, but you can still put them home, 2 damage or whatever. The power stays, though. That's the big thing. Like, the power at that point in the game where this is going off, if your opponent's on grade 3, you're on grade 3, I feel like you should kind of have them at a point where, like, they're at least at 3 at some point. I feel like there's enough pressure tools in there to kind of help you do that, but that's not unreasonable. So, maybe they let something through, 2 to pass, boom, you hit it, that's fine. You put it on your Vanguard, you have no fear. You put them then to 5, and then boom, like, they have to block Eugene, who's now buffed up when he restands off of him, yet they have to block 2 decent other columns as well. I will say the size, the columns in this deck, if played correctly, if things do not kind of go your way, but if they go a normal way, I would say your columns are pretty powerful overall. So this guy really helps, adds a little bit of intricacy to the deck, and just makes it a little bit more successful than it was previously. And again, you have to be on grade 3, and I get it, they have to have no rear guards and whatnot, but at the same time, if that condition is fulfilled, which isn't so crazy, this really comes to be an impactful card. So definitely need that. I'm putting at 3 of just because we searched so much. I was trying to get a 4, too much, 2, too little. I think 3 is the right spot there. And then lastly, rounding this off, still running one of this guy. You can swap this in for, I think there's like a grade 1 that retires itself and draws also, but I just wanted the options here, and I feel like throughout my games I just noticed I had counterblast, like, it wasn't a big deal. I know there are a couple things in here that do counterblast overall, but this guy is Drag Raider Icarus, still running one of them. Act on rearguard circle. Your opponent's rearguard was retired this turn. Counterblast 1 and perform one of the following. This guy gets an extra 10k, which makes it a 15k booster, which is awesome. And then you could also put this card into your soul, and your opponent chooses a grade 2 or greater cards. Then choose one of your opponent's grade 2 or greater cards and retire it. So again, retire, or just give yourself power. And again, you could like have gone through your motions and then at some point like retired something during your turn. This just says during your turn. This is not just like, oh, it has to be in that moment when your opponent's thing is retired, because it is an axe skill. So also have 4 of the PGs in the deck. No debate here, just need those. You can swap one of these for the order card. Definitely suggest doing that. I just haven't done that in this deck. I have a bunch of them, I just haven't slotted them into my decks. But yeah, change one of these to the order cards, no big deal either way. Still the same deal, which is pretty nice. But that is it for the main deck. Let's get into the triggers. Alright, no surprise here, we're still running the Dragon Empire over trigger. This did get reprinted, so a little bit cheaper now, which is pretty nice. Overall, you can't really combo this with the Oswald play in the turn that you boost with Oswald, because Oswald would have restood it, has to be boosting it, can't just be like, oh, in the same column or whatever. So it sucks in that regard, but if you swung with Eugene, and then, you know, you did the Oswald restand, hit this off of the Oswald restand, Eugene, you know, you're attacking for the third time, so to have that possibility in the deck is really great. You know, even in earlier turns, if, you know, you hit this, it's not eligible for like an Oswald restand or whatever, this can really help send it home, so no debate, you know, just Dragon Empire trigger, it is what it is there. Next up over here, I'm running a total of 7 crits, and for the insole ones, again, if you're trying to do this on a budget, you don't have to necessarily do that, but these do help at times with certain numbers and whatnot. Over here's another 3 just vanilla triggers as well. Could be any ones you want. I have one of these guys tossed in there, don't know why. I think I'm just sporadic between all my decks at this point, but over here, 7 of those. I'm running just 1 draw trigger. I think this could be swapped to a front, but I do want to still test this and put it in here just to see at times, do I feel like I want to draw at certain times, or do I feel like I want to have that front? So just testing purposes wise, I still have 1 in there just to test that and think about it every time I see it. Do I like this? Would I have rather have the other card at that point? But aside from that, I'm still running 3 of our additional fronts, and again, these are the ones with the 5k. I would say if you're going to splurge on any of the effect triggers, these are the ones to do it. The extra 5k shield just feels really nice in hand, making a 20k shield. So that and the draw trigger, I would say these guys are optional. It's up to you and your budget. If you have them, all the more power to you. Next up, just 4 vanilla heal triggers. Nothing too crazy. I don't think the effect triggers right now are super powerful. I know we have one coming out, or that was announced or whatever. Those seems pretty good, but overall, that about wraps it up. Let's hop into just a general discussion overall, and then we'll wrap up the video. So in a deck that really relies on, you know, your opponent's hand state, I feel like it's a little redundant and just pointless to do a test hand video. Really with this, I feel like we all know Eugene at this point. I will say this, just my overall general thoughts from playing this in locals, playing this with my buddies, playtesting and whatnot. I don't think this is a bad deck. I don't think it's a meme anymore. I feel like the control that it exerts on a majority of decks actually is pretty tough to kind of respawn and like kind of, you know, play through their, like, if you wipe someone's board and, you know, they set it up fully the turn before, there are 1 or 2 cards that kind of recur, bring back, you know, Bafsagra has things, obviously Magnolia, Zorga can play through that kind of stuff, but outside of that, and maybe Ava with the resist, it's tough, I would say, for a lot of people to replenish their boards and do it in an efficient manner. I think that's the key here. You really have to know the matchups and know, can my opponent like efficiently play through my strategy, my idea of just getting rid of their cards overall, and if they can, you know, maybe scale it back, conserve your hand a little bit more. What else with this deck? I think the restander is great, just applies a whole new level of pressure. Overall, I really do like that, and I think it is probably the most fun I've had with this deck in quite a bit of time. Overall too, you can kind of play with those grade 3s. If you want to try them out, go ahead. Like I said, these are really just deck templates for you to move forward from there. I prefer a little bit more heavy on the grade 2 side, but I'm sure this list will still kind of change and evolve as the meta kind of evolves as well. But overall, you know, Ava being a top deck's not going to stop me from playing this. I love Dragon Empire, love me some Eugene, so I hope you guys did enjoy the video. If you guys are enjoying it, make sure to leave that like and subscribe to the channel like I said before, and anything you want to purchase down that TCG player link. Let me know any questions down below in the comment section. This is Alex from Team Generations, signing out.